Today I'm going to be covering 3 different campaigns, 1 current and 2 past that just still haven't delivered yet. And I'll be covering exactly how they're not exactly being upfront with you with all the information and some of the tactics that they use, and then also just some of the general tendencies that I see that I'm looking at. And this will kind of pave the way for the future videos I make covering all these crowdfunded games, and just really, you guys need to know about this. And it affects thousands of you, like, directly, and everybody else. All of you watching this right now, it affects moving forward as this industry progresses. So let's discuss. Okay, so I'm going to start out with kind of a deep dive into one that's been around since 2020. So we're going to go through several updates. We're going to look at LinkedIn. We're going to look at different companies they're setting up and all sorts of like oddities and weirdness. And that's going to pave a way for the final 2 that I show that'll be a little bit quicker as we kind of like keeping that in mind doing that. So this is kind of establishing what you tend to kind of see. And I'm not saying every company is as bad as this one is. When it comes to shadiness, there are quite a few, and you definitely need to be a lookout for it. So, and let's all look out for each other too. So if you know something, let me know of any campaign that might be doing this, and I will try to do the same for you guys on these videos and future ones moving forward. So always a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members for making this channel possible. It's an expensive hobby, and sometimes we even get scammed in it, and it's no fun for anybody involved. And so I do appreciate their support. More on that at the end of the video. All right, so we're going to look at Terminal Overdrive here. This is by Dragon Turtle Games, and this campaign came out in 2020. And it still hasn't delivered. That's right, it's 2023 now, and still nothing. So it gets messy. It gets bad. So we're gonna just I'm just gonna go through it. I've highlighted to kind of summarize for you guys, and I'm gonna try and piece it together and reveal what this picture looks like kind of slowly as the layers peel back and we get more to the bottom of things and what's really going on. So we're gonna start here at the comments. You can see there's been 85 updates, 1,252 comments. We're just gonna scroll down until we see some highlights because I've already read through so much of this, guys. I hope you appreciate the effort I've put into this. Here, Adam, 4 months ago, says, to receive what I pledged for, I will have to pay the same amount again, and if I do, it will be out of pocket 191 USD after my initial pledge, and then having to double it to get that pledge. And for 2 books, that is an insane proposition. What is he talking about here? Essentially, recently, they said that they're going to have to do a print on demand. In other words, we don't have the money to actually deliver you the PDFs or the physical version of the PDFs. If you didn't know, this is an RPG or a tabletop RPG game, so you have like the core books of that. I believe there were about 5 books available. And now they're saying, hey, after all these years, we cannot deliver them, we cannot print them. Instead, we're going to go through DriveThruRPG, and you're going to be able to have them print on demand at cost. The at cost referring to the cost that the DriveThruRPG is stating to actually print it. Which means that you have to buy it again, right? Because you've already bought it and then they did deliver it. And I'll say if you buy it through DriveThruRPG at cost, then you can have it. It's essentially what they're saying here. So then this person responds, indeed, Adam, you can read a detailed account of how pledge funds were used in update 60. More on that in a bit. Pledged on Kickstarter, that is, the significant additional pledges. And speaking about the pledged funds, they say pledged on Kickstarter, that is, the significant additional pledges made through the pledge manager are accounted for exactly nowhere. In other words, they broke down in update 60. Again, we'll hold your horses on that. And in there, they said this is how the funds were used, right? The money that we made from this campaign, which if you scroll up here again, you'll be able to see they made about £182,000, which if I hover over that, at current exchange rates is about $222,000 from 2,116 backers at the time of Kickstarter. Then in the pledge manager, which lasted a fair amount of time, they got more late backers, people upgraded their pledges, stuff like that. And so the total amount is obviously more than that. How much more? Well, we don't know. We don't get insight into that pledge manager, but either way, they didn't break that down. That's kind of what he's saying there. Okay, they also say, but for fears that this would not sit well with backers, not sit well meaning like charge them the additional amount to manufacture and sell. In other words, exactly what Mythic Games is doing right now, where they're like, hey, here's another charge, get your game if you get this. But they said, hey, that won't sit well with the backers because that was never even explored because they didn't think it would work well, as if the current situation is sitting any better, really. Instead, delivery is set to be done print on demand, meaning we get a significantly degraded physical quality product for even higher cost. Whoop-de-doo. In other words, it's kind of like saying, you know, hey, I know Mythic Games, let's just use that as an example. It's a recent one. You want your Darkest Dungeon Wave 2. Instead of saying, hey, here's some, we'll charge you this amount and then we'll deliver it, they'll say, hey, instead, actually, you have no option to get what we originally got you. Here's a standee version. Everybody gets a standee version. And also, we're going to still have to charge you more for that standee version to get it. But there's not even an option to get the legit version that we wanted to begin with. Not exactly a great deal for these people. I mean, obviously, that's not exactly a good sale. I mean, that just kind of sucks. So if you move on from that, here is update 55. I know it's not 60. Again, we will get to that. Here's update 55. The future of Carbon 2185 and Terminal Overdrive. This is from August 19th, 2022. So here, Dragon Turtle Games said the future of Dragon Turtle Games. We had intended to create digital-only content for Carbon 2185 and kickstarted while we worked on delivering this campaign. Kickstarter changed the rules pretty soon after we funded Terminal Overdrive, and creators could not kickstart projects while filling a previous one. The inability to crowdfund any other projects meant that our revenue dried up. Okay, so if you didn't know, back in the heyday, it was very easy to kind of do Ponzi schemes, scam people, stuff like that on Kickstarter. Board games have always been better than like video games, and especially like technology campaigns on Kickstarter. We've actually had it pretty well, but we still have issues, as you can see. So what they ended up changing was, before you've delivered your first project, you can't just keep launching them. Now, when they first announced this, what they meant is essentially your first project ever as a company. Once you've established that you deliver stuff, they'll let you keep making them, because Kickstarter wants money, and they can't make money if they don't let you post on there. So they eventually kind of really eased on this, but the initial wording, the initial inclination was, until you deliver your last project, you cannot start a new one, period. That's when a lot of these companies started making new companies to launch these new companies, right? More on that in a little bit too, or more, new crowdfunding theft to keep it going. So essentially what they're saying is, we were planning on making money to keep this going through other campaigns, literally describing what a Ponzi scheme is. That's what their plan was to do, is keep launching Kickstarters, and that keeps going and that works as long as the money keeps coming in. But the moment it stops, like Kickstarter cuts you off, suddenly the Ponzi scheme falls flat, and the money you raised for this and the money you're expending out of it don't match, and you cannot deliver it. That's what happened with Mythic Games. That's what's happening here. It's what happens to Peterson Games. It's what happens all the time, and you only find out about this, obviously, once it stops working. I talk about spinning plates often, right? So you have the little guy and he's spinning all these plates. You're trying to keep them all spinning and none of them falling over. And eventually one of them falls over. And once that starts, they all just start collapsing. Same exact concept here. Okay, so that they even admit that's what they're planning on doing. Spamming more campaigns, getting more money, and just delivering that way ad infinitum until eventually it all breaks down. In this case, it broke down. We have been operating at a loss for well over a year and have had to lay off all of our salary employees over the period. DTG is a one-man show. So, for well over a year, they have been operating at a loss, and backers were not aware of this at all. They did not communicate this to anybody. Again, this is even before they broke down where the funds were going. This is update 55, not 60. So, often you guys are left ignorant. Purposely ignorant. They know that they were losing money and had no way of doing this, right? In fact, they even said that the Kickstarter changed their rules pretty soon after we funded. So they knew really early on they weren't able to do this, keep the revenue going. And then for well over a year, they had been operating at a loss. Remember, this was at 2022, and they did their campaign at the end of 2020. So literally, pretty much since launching this and ending the campaign, in fact, probably while the pledge manager was still going, they were operating a loss and told no one, not their backers. All of you guys were left ignorant. And in fact, the pledge manager was probably still going on. So it really, really a bad look for that. They knew ahead of time, and they told you nothing. And in fact, this kind of trickle truth is something that they always do, where they'll only ever admit something when, the crap hits the fan, or there's a leak, or somebody points out something, and then suddenly they do that. I talked about that with the Toyzzo table, more on that later, of course, but the moment somebody says, hey, this is an issue, they're like, oh yeah, well, that. But then they know all these other issues, but they won't say them until you say, oh, and this is an issue, and then they'll admit to that. and you just only get that little bit. All right, but they weren't without plans, right? So let's see what's going on. Well, guess what? They have this Bancroft Publishing with their friends over at Bancroft Publishing to bring a renaissance of officially licensed Canon Carbon 2185 content. Bancroft will be developing and releasing digital Carbon 2185 content. Like we mentioned earlier in this update, we are confident that these projects will more than cover our issues and help get DTG back on its feet. So they have some friends over at Bancroft Publishing. More on that. Again, I've dug into all of this. And guess what Bancroft Publishing's doing? They're doing a lot of what DTG was doing here with the Carbon 2185. That's what it's all about here. So thank goodness they have some buddies over at this separate company that is just going to be publishing more of their stuff. It's certainly not super related to that company, right? Surely, and if it was, they would let you know, hey, we're totally just kind of spinning off this thing, and surely would have let you know that, right? Just like they would have let you know about this. Or again, they'll keep you ignorant. So let's take a look at what's going on there. So here's the updates. So we get August 19th, right? That's when they had that. And then they announce in December 15th. So again, now several months have gone by, right? And then like a lot, right? So like a third of a year goes by, nothing. And finally they're saying, hey, here's this new Legacy Rising coming in January 2023. So a couple months later, bam, we have this brand new thing coming out. It's going to be by this other company. And then they have some clearing up some backer confusion in December 2019. So very quickly. So in other words, some people are caught on and we get that little trickle truth a little bit. So let's take a look at that. So here's a clearing up some backer confusion, slight change of plans. So on December 29th, 10 days after they announced the new one, I've gotten a couple of questions from some confused backers about the upcoming Legacy Rising campaign by Bancroft Publishing. Specifically, a half dozen or so people, so only like 6 people, were confused because Bancroft Publishing is one of the small publishing studios that I personally, Robert Mariner Dodds, not Dragon Turtle Games, had invested in. I've invested in and helped to launch and guide several small tabletop startups over the years. So a few things here. First of all, acting like it was common knowledge because 6 people find it out and then you finally mention it when you were very much have an us and them thing before when you announce it like here, right? Suddenly there's like no relationship, but then suddenly, oh no, it was totally a relationship and it's just common knowledge. I freely admit it now that you found out. It's total BS. And the fact that Robert Mariner Dodds here has invested and helped launch and guide several small startups, tabletop startups over the year is frightening because what we're going to see is a gross amount of mismanagement and ineptitude when it comes to running a business. And that just hurts backers. And the fact that he's involved in so many of those scares me. It honestly does for the industry because people like this can damage the industry in such a large way. They may have great ideas, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can run a business well. Hence, the whole concept of, hey, we're just going to keep releasing Kickstarters and that'll keep the payment going. That's not how you build a business. Not a viable one that lasts. But a lot of these people that focus on startups, they just start them up and then they let them collapse. And they're already on their next company. They're always on their next company. By the way, he's already made another company. So like he's already moved on from Dragon Turtle Games too. He's on to the next thing and he'll start that up. And then when it fails, oh no, and then another one. They do this all the time. It's a good idea for people like him because they get the best of the startup and then they kind of peace out and then it collapses and so some consumers get screwed over, but you know what, they're over starting up new ones and investing in new ones and doing that and just moving on to the next hotness. And it's very unfortunate to see somebody like that acting out that in this industry because it's never a good thing for the industry. So let's go ahead and look at this Legacy Rising. As you can see, this was launched by Dead Channel Studios, which again, where the heck did they come from, right? They weren't mentioned at all. Where did Dead Channel Studios come from? And it looks like, they did their whole thing and it's a Carbon 2185. It's almost as if that Dragon Turtle Games making their, Carbon 2185 and Dead Channel Studios doing their Carbon 2185. This is bypassing the Kickstarter rule a little bit. Now he says here, Kickstarter's totally fine with that. And of course they are because they get their money no matter what. The only people that benefit from Dragon Turtle Games is the owners that get to pay themselves and Kickstarter, who got their 10% whether they deliver or not. So Kickstarter's always okay with that. Kickstarter let Mythic Games continue to go on way longer than they should have, right? And so on and so forth. They just don't care. They're making money on failed campaigns. The only people are on failed to deliver campaigns. We're the only ones that suffer from that situation. So kind of unfortunate that that's some kind of legitimization. So what is this Dead Channel Studios? Well, I had to look them up. So it's done by this Lewis Frazier, who, as you can see, is the project lead at Dead Channel Studios. He was also the intellectual property manager at Dragon Turtle Games. Huh. That's kind of interesting. Who would have thought that they were, and then a junior game designer at Dragon Turtle Games. So it's almost like this guy's buddy and him, and because he invested in this, started this other company, and they just had that other company run. Kind of interesting how that works. Very interesting. So Dead Channel Studios is essentially run by people that do the Dragon Turtle games, and they just launched their own stuff and continue to do this. So they're trying to still go all the way back to this. They're still trying to do this. Just spam the Kickstarters, hope it pays for it. That's what they're doing here. Now, why we have to look it up like that, I don't know, but it's going to get way worse. You can see the name of this Reddit post quite easily, and yeah, it's or in this whole Reddit subreddit, and this fits it here. So thankfully, I found this from 5 months ago. This is a great one, and even says, hey, I put this here so somebody hopefully can find it. Submitted a pledge for a whopping $250 USD, which granted me a measly set of 5 books, 1 hardcover and 4 softcover, way back in November of 2020. Expected fulfillment was February of 2021, literally 3 months later. That's right, they launched this campaign pretending they could deliver in 3 months. Again, obviously a bold-faced lie. Or they just took the money and they just didn't care, right? Which is almost what it's seeming like. It's been 2.5 years. Well, about 3 years now then, because this was 5 months ago. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, and all 3,115 backers, including myself, received an update saying the Kickstarter ran out of funds to produce the books. They claimed they have commissioned an independent accounting firm to verify their books and provided the resulting audit. But look at this accounting firm, AR Accountancy Solutions. Not a shred of credibility from past clients. Definitely seems scammy. Well, let's go and take a look at that. So here it is, AR Accounting Solutions, one of the most basic websites that would take about 30 seconds to, like, literally just a picture and some lorem ipsum, pretty much is what you get here. All you get is a contact with the we're not accepting new clients at the present. Sorry for the inconvenience. If you follow this, it takes you to some weird place as well. More on that in a bit. But suffice it to say, this is kind of sketchy. It's also sketchy to say that they ran out of funds to produce the books when they were set to produce those books within 3 months, apparently. So how did the price increase? How did COVID cost an issue? How did all this issues with the funding happen if you say, hey, in 3 months I can get you the product, pay me $250 and I'll get you that product, and then 2.5 years later you still haven't done it, and you're gonna claim, oh, we ran out of money. It's because you spent it on God knows what. Not books, that's for sure. So, a little bit about this guy. He alleges that he's a career project manager who has done budgeting and forecasting. From what I can tell, it seems pretty legit. He seems to know his stuff. But, you know, always internet, you can claim anything. They were doing things like rolling salaries and development costs into line in this audit. Now, you see how, like, oh, remember there was that, like, update 60, right? Well, the reason I didn't show update 60, if I go back here, is because right after they cleared some things up for backers, in other words, hey, we're going to launch this other thing. Oh, hey, look at this new thing. Oh, hey, yeah, I guess I'm totally related to that thing and it's pretty much just me again. They turned everything but the link to that to backer only. And the only reason to do this with every one of your updates is to hide information. Every single one. This also means that every late pledger cannot view these. They will see this just like me. Anybody that's beyond this amount of backer pool will never be able to see this. Any late pledger cannot see this inherently. And of course they do it on purpose. In fact, they turned it on right after spilling the beans that, oh yeah, we're totally involved in that. And by the way, there's some issues. Awful convenient, I think. So let's go back to this post here. All right, so they're lumping in this update number 60, where they kind of show where all the money went. They're updating salaries and development costs into one line on the audit. Hilariously inappropriate, obviously. Without proper transparency on development costs, we don't know how much money was actually spent on the creation of our product and how much money the Kickstarter managers paid themselves. And that is what screams absolute scam to me. In other words, they've lumped their own payments in, right? He's lumped his own payments in to himself in the same the same line of development costs, which is a pretty BS thing to do, obviously, right? Also, they paid office rent during COVID when everybody was forced to work at home. So I guess they kept paying the old office, or they didn't, and they just kept it on the audit budget. And, and I'm sure this super legitimate accounting service was totally found that out. And I mean, the guy that talks about how he funds all sorts of other companies and does business with a whole bunch of his friends and all that stuff, I'm sure picked that very well. Today, despite the aforementioned update 2 weeks ago, very vehemently communicating that funds have completely run out for the project, the thing they were going to make in 3 months, and refunds will not be offered, I received a refund. Coincidentally, my comment on the public page has been removed because this person was canceled their pledge, but I can no longer view it because the posts are for backers only. So in other words, the moment you call them out with some sort of legitimacy, like I know what I'm talking about, and they'll personally refund you. And just to get you to not comment again, and then you're cut out of everything because they've also hidden privately, only for backers, every single update after that. Now, go ahead and try and tell me that's a coincidence. I would love to see that. This wasn't even a net new product. It was an update with hard copies to an existing product they'd already created. That's right, Carbon 2185, this whole universe, they had already done. Terminal Override was just adding a little bit more to it. It wasn't even new, which is why they said they could print it so quick. Because, hey, we just need the funds. We'll collect it. We'll do that and not. Or we'll take the money and run, apparently, is what we're doing here. It gets a little interesting down here, too. Putting that London address in Google Maps, this one right here, feel free to do that if you wish, produces some outfit called a Savcam Ltd that describes itself as a graphic designer, and someone else called Vimwin Company, no description. A domain lookup showed the site was registered 3 days prior to their out of money update as well. In other words, this literally happened to spin up 3 days prior to them putting an update. You guys are smart. Every single one of you. I know. You guys impress me all the time. You guys are smart, and you guys can see exactly what's going on here. Exactly. You can see right through it. Luckily, we have other ways to find stuff like this. And you can look it up, by the way. There's actually several places that do that. I'm one of the moderators for the Carbon 2185 subreddit. Okay, that's not this one. This is the Carbon 2185, the official one. Thank you for your research. I just want to give everyone here, especially the moderators, a heads up that the company behind this Kickstarter is known for vote manipulation. If you didn't know how Reddit works is you're voted up or voted down. And things that are voted down are naturally hidden and kind of way out of the line. And stuff that's voted up, that's the hotness, right? That's what goes up. Mass reporting, ban evasion, and astroturfing with sock puppet accounts. Since I cross-posted this post to our Carbon 2185, this is a good chance that this will also translate on this post. And this is edit. This post dropped from 50 points to 0. It is clearly being vote manipulated again. In fact, statistics show that it went from a 97% upvote to a 46% upvote rate, and that was in less than a day. So suddenly, it's posted to 2185, and then suddenly there's this huge influx and this person even previously even said, hey, by the way, this is probably going to happen. And sure enough, it did. Suddenly, everything was dropped like that. Impressive. So, there's a lot of hiding information from you guys. There's a lot of manipulation. Look, there are some great developers out there, and I love this industry, and I love all the developers I work with. I think they're fantastic. They're really, really cool, and they're just passionate about games and want to make great games for you. Don't think that every person is bad in this industry, because there are some that are. But there are some that are. And obviously, this is one of them, right? Obviously, Dragon Turtle Games and this guy are one of them. And in fact, so is Dead Channel Studio. I wouldn't touch that with a poll or any of the other countless ones that he's invested in. Or this accounting agency that randomly showed up 3 days before when they said that they're using them now. It just shows a lot of manipulation, and it just shows how left in the dark we truly are, and that we have to just either trust what's told to us or not. And it's hard to navigate because not everybody is lying to you. But there's definitely people that withhold information, that trickle truth it out, that just ease out every little bit, and you have to pry it from them by calling them out on it. And it's rather unfortunate. Even then, they'd like to ban you and hide your comment and take away your voice to do it. So with that in mind, let's move on to some other things. All right, so if you didn't know, Creature Caster had a thing where they were making Judgement Eternal Champions, and they were going to make it in resin and in PVC. They delivered the resin. They have yet to deliver the PVC, and it is quite late at this point. No information, no information, no information. They've made an update now. I'm going to tell you about the update. We're going to walk through that. But first, I want to show how they treated one of their customers. This is what eventually happened. Hello, Andrew. I'm very sorry to hear that you have suffered water damage due to all the craziness this year. We are unfortunately unable to offer refunds at this time, as all funds are locked into the project production, and Wave 1 has already shipped. Kind regards, Emma. It's a pretty good response. That's not too bad. That's not where it started, though. Where it started was this. Here's Andrew again. You can see him here. He let me know this, by the way. If you ever have a bad experience with a developer, let me know. Let me know. I can look into it. I can see if I can make things better. If nothing else, I can bring awareness. Okay? So let's all just try and treat each other, both sides, with kindness, right? So while we see other developers doing this, we see some developers doing this. Out of curiosity, is it possible to refund Wave 2 PVC content for the Judgement Eternal Champions? Amount of content is more than enough on hand already. And then Creature Caster Taylor said, more on Taylor in a moment, you're seriously asking me about Judgement again on a weekend, in a different server, after I just said I don't talk about Judgement on weekends. Number 1, absolutely not. Number 2, absolutely not. Number 3, I'm putting your account on mute. Now, I actually reached out to Andrew and asked what his 3-point question was, because I assumed I didn't see it in here. It turns out, actually, he just wanted to respond twice to the refund of absolutely not, and the third time of and I don't want to ever hear from you again, which is, again, great customer service. Of note, whether it's a weekend or not, Creature Caster Taylor has in his name Creature Caster and is therefore repping the Creature Caster brand. If he doesn't want that, then he needs a separate business account or work account and non-work account. We do that all the time. I have a work laptop, and when I'm not working on that, that laptop is off. I'm not checking it. So that when I'm talking, it's me talking and not my work self-talking, right? I do my official work on there, and then I do my weekend stuff elsewhere. The problem was he was just talking about some other stuff. And so Andrew wanted to bring it up. He just won't talk to you about Judgement. You know, the thing that's late, the thing that, everybody has an issue with. Again, more on that in a moment. So Andrew said, sorry, dude, I work 24 hours, crazy shift in an ER, and also have a 60-month-old child. So unfortunately, I ask when I manage to think about it, or I see activity about it. But glad to see that's how you handle a simple question. Noted, took more effort to say that than a simple yes or no. Well, they wanted to say absolutely not twice to you, and then mute you. So then this person here said, hey, Drew Bree, I don't know why they're calling him that. I think what is trying to be said is shoot them an email instead. Right now, the team is all stressed, having to make hard decisions. They're super stressed, as I know you are taking care of the girls, a new job, and home. Let's keep big, stressful questions to support Emo Brother. It's a huge stress time for the team, and they are doing their best. I'll comment on that in a moment, but let's see what Creature Caster Taylor said. He's obviously very good at customer relationships. So he said, nope, that's not what I said. He said, no, I'm not saying send it to an email. What I said was reaching out during the week. I'm not stressed. I'm enjoying my weekend. In fact, I just said it to Altier. This is the second time in 2 weeks I've asked him not to bug me about Judgement on my weekend. Luckily, there is an awesome mute function. He can now limit his correspondences to support at creaturecaster.com, and Emma will handle it. Now, first of all, he's enjoying himself. He's not stressed at all, which is great because, he's actually one of the higher-ups there that took a whole bunch of people's money and didn't deliver the product. So I'm glad he's not stressed about that. That's really great to see. And the whole making hard decisions, the reason it's stressful and a hard decision is because they have backers' money and they're not giving them product. That's why it's stressful, because they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. I think they should be stressed about that. But apparently Creature Caster Taylor is pretty cool about it. Just don't ask him about it. So then Andrew responded with, I don't actually think you responded to me at all the last time I asked a question, if memory serves. I did not know the first time that you don't answer questions on weekends, nor with the shift work do I generally know what day of the week it is, honestly. It wasn't like you messaged me back during this past week either. Once it was no longer the weekend, I thought I could just catch you quick while you were, the topic was loosely on that topic when it popped up on my phone. While weekday is convenient for you, you don't know my life situation either. Anyway, all good. I will remove myself from the channels you use, but mute if you wish. Obviously he won't see this. I doubt he's watching this video. I don't need to support a business that treats me that way from a simple inquiry. I don't need a refund either. It was just kinder if you could consider it for me. Take care, guys. I'll keep the pledge, donate to the raffle with PSK's help for next year after it delivers. So that's kind of a bummer. It turns out, actually, and I spoke with Andrew about this when he reported this to me, that he actually asked on like a more official channel and was banned from that channel. That's no longer a Discord server he belongs to. So even if there was a response, he never saw it because he was kicked from the group. And so then when he asks here, he's then muted again. So do not ask Creaturecaster Taylor for anything about it. He doesn't want to talk to you. And he won't respond to you over the week either. He just will ignore you. Now, it's interesting because on September 17th, the last thing that we were told is, I will update at the end of the week on the weekend for other regions, as well as an update regarding PVC. So as far as everybody was concerned, Creaturecaster was going to update us on the weekend. That's right, weekend PVC question, commenting about that. But apparently asking them a question on the weekend is not allowed. Just wait for the update. But in fact, you probably shouldn't talk to Taylor. He seems kind of grumpy. So who is this Taylor? Because maybe he's just a lowly guy. Well, no, he's a business development officer at Creaturecaster, permanent full-time for over 2 years. He's an experienced project manager and has strong marketing professional about how to be rude to people in a company that took money and didn't deliver what they promised. It's not exactly a great look. Not exactly a great look for one of your higher-ups, your business development officer, to do. The moment you get upper management being condescending, rude, and muting and banning and hiding customers asking questions because they're asking questions about a project you didn't deliver on, that you didn't give them to, that's really sad. Additionally, I reached out actually to their CEO because I've actually had the pleasure of playing a game with him, and he was very nice when I did that. I didn't receive any response, any comment about Taylor at all. And I let him know, like, hey, this probably isn't a cool thing to do. Just ask for clarification. I was actually quite nice about it as well. But apparently, we're not going to get anything about that. Now, they did do an update on the weekend. So let's see what they said. Let's see what happened. So they missed the weekend by a little bit, I guess. September 25th, so that was on Monday. But you know what? Who's holding them to their word at this point? PVC. The cost to complete the second wave has increased significantly and is something that we are not in financial position to bear all at this time. As such, the production has been paused for at least 6 months while we work on put funds together. Does this not remind you of another company perhaps operating at a loss and having no clear way of fixing it for a year before they tell you? But for the last 6 months, Creaturecaster has not been able to do this with PVC, and they have just told nobody. Instead, they don't respond. They don't talk to you on weekends. They ban you and just are rude to you and tell you absolutely not. And don't talk to me ever again, you big meanie, for asking about a refund for a product I didn't give you. You know, they're doing that kind of stuff instead of just telling you. They withhold that information. For half a year, Creaturecaster has known this isn't possible. And for half a year, you have not known because they didn't bother to tell you. They didn't deem it viable to tell you, the person that gave them money, that made them the business that they are, that allows them to feed their families and pay their mortgage as a company. They didn't tell you all that because apparently you're not worthwhile enough to know the truth. We're not asking for anything financially from backers and are hoping to generate the additional funds internally, but this is going to take us some time. Again, we have seen how well this can work. Sometimes it can, almost always it does not. As much as we give Mythic Games grief, at least they're delivering the product, and it's because they're slapping us in the face with a huge bill that we shouldn't have to pay because they're mismanaging money as well, and all these other companies asking for more. It's because they did bad at business. That's why. The reason Mythic Games needs money, they're bad at business. The reason Creaturecaster needs it, because they're making mistakes in their business. They're making mistakes with how they treat their backers while they do it too, apparently. And it's just unfortunate to see this stuff happen after the fact. You're informed, oh, by the way, we're screwed. Oh, by the way, there's no chance that you can even help with this. You're just, that's it. We will continue to offer the option for resin upgrade and shipping to backers. So they are still able to do small batch resin things if you pay for it. So if you do want your Wave 2, this is possible. You can do that starting in January of 2024. So FYI, there's a path forward for you guys. As much as I can yell at companies, as much as I get frustrated when consumers aren't given the proper reverence they deserve for making this entire niche even possible, I want you guys to be able to get your games. So if you're willing to upgrade to resin, that is something that they can actually do. They did deliver the resin stuff, and I'm sure they can do that there because it's a small batch order. The PVC thing's an issue because it's a big batch order. So to press print on it, even though all the molds are there, you still have to order, so many and pay for so many and then deliver so many. That's kind of the hard part there. Whereas if you pay a little bit extra, that'll pay the difference for the resin. In the next couple of weeks, we will let you know more details about the financial situation and plans as we move forward. And our goals is to do this as transparently as possible. Well, I'm glad that you stopped being non-transparent and started wanting to be transparent. I don't know what changed, why CreatureCaster decided to turn a new leaf and suddenly actually start talking to their backers. Apparently they are, and that's great, and I'd love to see that continue. But to ignore how you've been treating people up until then, with keeping them in the dark, keeping them uninformed, keeping them ignorant, not telling them what's going on, banning and muting them if they ask questions on the weekend, being ridiculous about that from your upper management is really, really sad. And honestly, I wouldn't expect too much transparency. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but it doesn't right the wrong they've done either way. It's just unfortunate to see this happen. It really is. Now, and of note, this is all CreatureCaster. They are just part of the manufacturing Kickstarter. So just as an FYI, it's on them on that. No other related companies. All right, let's move on to that. To Toyzzo. This is the Toyzzo, the game table that came out of nowhere from China from a guy named Brian and one other lady that apparently has a stake in Los Angeles, but then eventually is found out to be China and offers a battery and then ends up not offering a battery and ends up offering 4 speakers and changes it to 2 speakers and all these other questions that come up because it turns out, and one of the reasons you see this, when I say bad business, it's not even necessarily their fault. Creating stuff on a global scale, manufacturing and logistics wise, is insane. I've talked to several developers about this, who successfully delivered, by the way, about how much they had to learn about all the different moving pieces to create something as advanced as a board game or a table, and then to manufacture that and then deliver it globally to all these different countries with all these different laws and figuring out what the logistics is of freight and, port stuff. And it's insane. The amount of detail something like this happens. It's not something you can just jump in and do. It's not that easy. That's the unfortunate part about this, is it's actually a very hard thing to do. This isn't even just like small business ownership issues where like you have to manage employees and a budget. That's part of it. But that's like what, you open your own restaurant, you have that issue too. It's all of the other stuff too on top of that can cause issues in the other one, or vice versa, right? If you're not good at every single aspect of running that business, you're going to come into some problems. And that's a large skill set that often is not the same as the person that just has a great idea. So that's the unfortunate part about this. It's just really, really hard. And that's what I think we're seeing here. We see somebody who's just like, yeah, sure, we can do that. And then the moment you start asking questions, like, oh yeah, I guess it's not possible. Okay, never mind about the battery. Oh, I guess it's not possible. Okay, never mind about that. Oh, I guess it's not possible to save your stuff there. Okay, well, you can remove those. And then it's, but then there's nothing to lock it in there. Oh, well, maybe we'll figure something out with that. There's all of this stuff over and over again where every step of the way you ask questions and they have to figure out what the answer is because they don't know. A lot of this has been delivery as well. I'm going to scroll down here because, as you saw, they actually did this offline event where they took a video here. You can go and watch it here. Here's Brian, by the way. He has no last name. He looks like a really young guy, though, so I don't know how much experience he has with this, but, apparently he does. It's you can watch this. It's pretty kind of cringe. I mean, that's obviously, put on a show here, and they actually admitted that most of these people actually work for Toyzzo, so they're just employees. They're not actually like gamers. It says here to demonstrate our commitment, we've prepared a video for you. The offline event was hosted by Brian, co-founder of the Toyzzo. Again, we don't know what the other co-founder is. They never say a name, and we don't know Brian's last name. Here he engages with players in China. Those players happen to be employees, but whatever. Let's not count that. But obviously, there's a little bit more here. So they used to have several big pinned comments, and they still do. As you can see, there's 1, and then there's 2, and there's 3, right? And then I think they even had another one. They had a 4th one at one point, but it dropped down. But as you can see, they have 1 update. So they've still not made another update, and they're just pinning comments and making these big long things. So any actual new comments are way buried deep on the page. They almost have the entire first page pinned, which is a great way, again, to hide a lot of what's going on here. And in fact, people constantly say that, and then they constantly will say, oh yeah, it's a great idea, or they'll just ignore it. But they've been saying that for days, and it hasn't happened yet. So, because everyone is like, hey, it'd be great if you weren't doing this, but they kept doing it. Here are some warehouse locations that provided by our shipping partner, and we will update more soon. So if you recall, they have the option to where they'll charge you $75 total, and you go pick it up at a local distribution place. And they mentioned Walmart. They actually named her at Walmart. They're like, look, we can go to all sorts of places. We work with people that deliver even to like Walmart. And if you didn't know, Walmart doesn't allow a customer pickup of some custom Kickstarter game table, obviously. But again, they're just saying these things without really any plan. They're just going to figure it out later, is what it seems. And often they're figuring out with the backers. I cannot in good conscience, and this gets bad, so in a moment, but I cannot in good conscience tell you guys to back this at all. I want to leave this link down below, but just so that if you backed it, you can remove your pledge or drop to $1. Please do not waste your money. If it happens to work, if it happens to be successful, then they can make a second campaign, right? Because it was successful, you can see it worked, and you can get on it then. They now have a cheap enough thing to do that. But you are risking your money so much here. I cannot stress that enough. And I highly encourage you not to back this game. Do not fund this. Even if they can, they shouldn't be rewarded for how they're doing it. Because how you do is important too, and that's respecting backers enough to do your research, to know what you're talking about, to being upfront and honest. So none of this, like, oh, we sent it to reviewers and then no, nothing ever happens there. None of this, oh yeah, we'll post an update and then nothing ever happens there. None of this, oh, here, we played with some players. Oh no, there are employees. None of this kind of fakeness that I see in here says anything good about this company, whether they can make the table at that price or not, and whether you're happy with the end up product that you get. It's just, trust me, it's not worth it. It's not good to feed in and support companies that run that way. It's not a good thing to do. So they list them here. But as it turns out, Lucas here, I work for the NJ3PL location. I'll be more than happy to PM you proof. I did not follow up on this yet, but honestly, it's fine because they're already going to follow up on that too. Under no circumstances do we allow customer pickups. Our insurances don't allow it. And our OSHA supervisor would have an absolute meltdown. Feel free to put these in Google Maps and see those locations. Yeah, they're just big, giant, they're distributors, right? That's their freight lining there, and then you do the final mile thing. They have loading bays for like 18-wheelers, not for your van that you're gonna pick up your game table in. And as you can see, there's not very many of them there, so that's not local to a lot of people. That's pretty rough, right? So it goes on even more here. They respond with, we will double check the logistics team to confirm this as they provide us with the warehouse. And I was like, oh yeah, it's these other people. We'll follow up on that. It's the other people. That was 5 days ago. Again, nothing and no update either. We've not heard back on this at all. And then here it says, unless you have a bill of landing and truck capable of docking, you aren't picking anything up from the New Jersey location listed. It's really impressive to see this level of, again, just saying things without actually properly, like vetting them and without actually properly having a plan forward. I think this is a big sign of people not respecting the fact that they have $500,000 of other people's money that they're going to be getting. And they're not even willing to put in an effort enough to vet a location of pickup. That it's not even worth it to them to listen to feedback about doing updates. It's not even worth it to them to vet about the battery or about the speaker count that changed or about the storage capacity when the topper is on or about the way the topper will slide around without that or about the material used and how it's not all walnut like it originally was said it was going to be or about any of the other countless things that they've messed up on. They have $540,000 signed up for them. And they should not, and we should not support that. The fact that this has funded at all kind of scares me because it shows a willingness to put up with this. And I think it's because we put up with it for so long. For so long do we get these companies, I've just shared several here, that aren't honest with you. That don't tell you anything up front. That keep you hidden and keep information hidden. That lie about it. That use their friends and other companies to launch new campaigns and bypass rules and trick you into giving them more money. They do all of this. And then if they find out, they're just like, oh yeah, it's no problem. Like, of course. I just didn't tell you and acted like we were separate. But yeah, I mean, duh, that sort of attitude, just a severe lack of respect. It's like we're used to it now. I commented on it and you guys commented on it. Well, the last time Mythic Games made an update, they didn't even apologize. There wasn't even a sorry about it. It says, oh yeah, we're gonna have to charge you more. They have so much money from us, and they gave us nothing in return. And you can't afford a fake apology even? No, that's a real one. And then you talk to some of them and you realize like some of these developers, you see how they comment or how they treat backers. They don't care. They don't feel bad about it. They'll have a great weekend. Spending time with their family, paying for ice cream with their kids maybe. Paying it with your money, the money they took from you, and didn't give you anything in return. And then when you have the audacity to comment on it, you break up their ice cream with little Timmy time that you paid for. They'll ban you, they'll mute you, they'll kick you from the server. Don't talk to me again. Get out of here. I do not like this attitude I'm seeing lately. I do not like this trend I'm seeing lately. I will continue to monitor this. And if you see anything like this, let me know. I can call them out. This platform, I don't want to be focused on negativity. And I'll have a great news video for you tomorrow where we go over some really cool campaigns. There's some great things coming out. This is a great industry, a great community, and a great space to have some innovative and exciting things where people can come up with new games and new genres of games even, all through crowdfunding. It's amazing. It's a great way to connect with creators. It's also a great way to abuse backers, and that's unfortunate. So I'll try to balance it, but at the same time, I don't think that these people should go unnoticed or uncommented on. It's not a cool way to operate a business, and you guys should do better. And you guys watching should expect better. Expect better. You are worth it. These people do not survive without your money. You are in control. Toyzzo only does it if they're able to. If you're willing to give them $540,903, then yeah, they can continue doing it and continue to not show you the respect enough to even do some basic research or try hard or vet things or bother with, a last name to even give you. I'll tell you one thing, don't give anybody any money if they're not willing to give you their last name. Not $200+. I don't know what situation that's crazy. That's crazy. It's almost like they don't want to be tracked because then I could find them on LinkedIn or lack thereof, right? So it's kind of funny when you don't hear about any other co-founder or they're not told about this or about that because then you can start looking things up. So anyway, guys, that's it on this. Again, if you have anything, if you come across anything, let me know. Of course, if you have any other information, comment down below. If you have any feelings on this or if you want to discuss it, let me know in the comments, please, because I will be reading those. I want to get in sync with you guys. Like I said, I want to be going to Essen Spiel here soon, and I'm just going to be watching people play Dante. And I want to do that, not because to be a creeper. I won't be there with binoculars behind a shrub or anything, but because I want to see what people are commenting. What's your first question? What's your first comment? When you first sit down there, what is your I want to see what you guys are into, what you guys are interested in, so that I can better accommodate that on this channel. So hopefully I can do that for you guys moving forward. If you do want to see that happen, please subscribe. It does help the channel a lot. A huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. Videos like this don't exactly buy me a lot of friends in the industry, and it's a very fine line I have to do. I have to monitor enough to where they'll still work with me so I can get information for you guys, but at the same time, call out bad behavior when I see it and warn you guys when I see it as well. So it's a line I constantly have to navigate, but stuff like this, it costs me tons of hours. It costs me potential future business things. Toyzzo may have been willing to pay me for something, and I obviously won't have that now. So there's all these things that I do for you guys, and it does sacrifice some of that potential that I could get by just playing ball or doing less research or not vetting it as much as these guys are. So if you appreciate the time I can spend on a video like this and the fact that I can even produce a video like this for you guys, and you do consider supporting. There's a join button down there for the YouTube membership and a link to the Patreon. It does help a lot, even a little bit, and I do greatly appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much, if nothing else, for watching. I always appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys real soon for some really cool campaigns that are launching now and in the future. Exciting things are happening. Take care, guys.